I'll take you up on the offer to stay out all night at 17. For 4 years. From ages 13 to 17. My parents told me that the night of your senior prom you do not have a curfew. When I got a car and started dating at 16, my curfew was a painful 11:30 p.m. Painful because I lived in a rural area and that could easily mean I had to leave an hour earlier from a date or event. I didn't have a date for senior prom and didn't want to go stag unaccompanied, so I planned on just hanging out during and then going to the parties afterwards. Prom was on Saturday, and on Friday my parents, who knew I wasn't attending, told me they expected me home by my normal curfew. My MC was telling them not to bother waiting up for me as I wasn't coming home. When they protested, I reminded them, the night of my senior prom I don't have a curfew. You never said I had to attend. That was the day I learned that being technically correct is the best kind of correct. You had an 11:30 curfew at 13? Sounds like the most easygoing parents out there. My kids never had a curfew. We talked about each event and decided what was a reasonable time for them to come home. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I don't feel like 11:30 p.m. is a curfew for a 13 to 17-year-old is in any way unreasonable. Damn, an 11:30 curfew? Despite living away from the city, that's still a really lenient time, haha. Back when I was a teenager, my paranoid mom wouldn't let me stay out past sunset. I used to come home on time for curfew, make hella noise, then wait 20 minutes, and sneak back out. Spoke to my mom about it as an adult, and she said they knew exactly what was going on. She said they used to bet each other on how long it would take for me to sneak back out. My dad would have smacked me upside the head. So, being in a rural area, what exactly did you do while you were out? Like, I live in a small city, and after 10 the only thing open are gas stations and convenience stores. As a 30-year-old, 11:30 seems so late now. I had an 11:30 curfew at 17 in a rural area, and it caused all kinds of problems. Especially BC. My boyfriend at the time wanted me to meet him at his place and carpool for dates. And he didn't believe in leaving early and had no curfew himself. My parents removed the curfew after I got stuck out in a storm trying to make it back in time. They changed it to reasonable and we are waiting up for you, and I never abused that because I didn't want it to be moved earlier. I ended up getting in around 12 most nights anyway. When I was 16, my weekend curfew was 11 p.m. All my friends had midnight or 1 a.m. curfews, so at 11 p.m. I started showing up at home with 5 to 6 people. And they'd slowly filter out as their curfews were up. This lasted for a couple months until my parents decided 12:30 a.m. was appropriate. 11:30 is a reasonable curfew. Yes, factoring in rural living. This isn't malicious compliance, it's just holding someone to something they said 4 years ago. I never really had a big curfew at any particular point. But I also didn't have anything to do that would have had me staying out late. My parents had allowed my older brother to stay up all night for prom. So I kind of assumed that that would be the case for me too. Leading up to prom, all kinds of kids at school were talking about their curfew and they asked me what mine was. I said I didn't think I had one. And they all insisted I needed to ask. So I did. And my mother's reply was, just don't wake me up when you come home in the middle of the night. Whenever that is. I did attend stag. And I didn't really have a big circle of friends who were doing all the party stuff. So I actually just drove around my small town by myself at 3 in the morning. And then I was absolutely wasted and exhausted for the next days. And I realized that staying up all night was not actually that much fun. We had a friend whose daughter was a couple years younger than ours. When she came home for Christmas break from college, her parents asked us what curfew we had given our daughter at that point. We just burst out laughing, especially since we never needed to implement a formal curfew. Our kids did their homework, got good grades, got themselves up and ready for school. No drugs or police at the door. They never even tried to stay out all night. I can't fathom my daughter staying out until 11:30 as a 13-year-old. I think they were very liberal and laid back with your curfew. I also lived in a very rural area and only graduated with 86 people, so I'm even taking that into account. At some point in my daughter's childhood, I apparently denied her request, demand to have ice cream for breakfast. The morning of her 40th birthday, she called me, "Mom, I am having ice cream for breakfast," me not remembering the aforementioned conversation. "Okay, daughter, you said when I got to be a grown-up, I could have ice cream for breakfast, so I am." Quote. When I was 14 years old, I was hanging out in a bar until closing time and then driving 20 miles home. I wasn't the cool young guy at a hipster bar. Nope. I was helping my dad at his bar. Hole in the wall. He would drink too much, so I often had to drive him home. Trust me, it was safer than his weaving back and forth on the highway. At least he was a happy drunk. Throughout high school, my mom would want me in my room and lights out by like 9 to 10 p.m. Granted, no curfew for say because I didn't have any friends to hang out with, but even if I did, it would take planning and trying to meet the parents or me letting her know when I was leaving. When I was there, updates throughout the time I was there. When I was heading home, and having a pre-established time to be home. Usually early morning when I knew I was still gonna be sleeping. This also applied on weekends when I didn't have anything to do. Let's just say I still don't have friends. She is a bit better now, but still wants to know where I'm going, when I'm there, updates, and when I'm leaving. I have been chilling alone at the park at night for the past few years just to get away. At first I had to have a time I would be back. Mind you, I'm a senior in college now, but now I just say when I'm there, and where I'm going, mostly because she is asleep and won't think I'm dead if she hears a siren. Edit. I will say this as well, she wanted me to have lights out by 9 to 10 p.m. but I never went to sleep then. I was usually on my phone till 3 a.m. Eventually, the last few months of high school, I kinda said screw it, and just stayed up playing Xbox till I got tired. As someone who was raised in a rural town, a 11:30 curfew is still extremely lenient. I have a self-imposed curfew. If I'm not in bed by midnight, I have to go home. Until I graduated, my official curfew was 9:30 p.m. My parents were strict. They allowed me to watch TV 2 hours a week. I grew up before internet or the other cool things. No Atari or Nintendo for me. They probably did me a favor in hindsight, but at the time I wasn't a big fan.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.